So yes, thanks. So this is a slightly peculiar topic, but it will hopefully become clear. It's work that I must thank my colleague Charles Lowe from Qualcomm, who's done a lot of work on this with me as well, and many other colleagues in SA4. Again, this work originated in SA2 group. So in their core architecture spec, which is kind of like the big, thick Bible thickness spec that defines the 5G core. They defined this thing called a network data analytics function. And the idea is that collects data from various different network functions in the 5G system, including potentially from application functions. And then it exposes what you might call analytics metadata to other network functions in the system. And the idea is to just get an idea of what's going on in the 5G system and how could it be improved from an operational point of view. That's kind of like the thrust of this NWDAF, the network data analytics function. So that was the basis of everything. And then in their 23288 spec, they further defined this a bit. So you can see that there's this concept of an event producer and an event consumer. So this network function acts as the event producer. It exposes events to the NWDAF, which consumes them. It turns the information into analytics and then exposes that to a data analytics consumer. So that's all very good. And they had some ideas about the sort of things that they wanted to do. One example, just as a concrete example, is called the network service experienced by UE. So for example, if you're moving around with your mobile phone can record the quality of the signal that you're receiving, and then it can potentially report that, and you could do some data analytics on that to improve the quality of the network. So while SA2 did have this idea of collecting information from UEs, the 23288 spec didn't really explain how to achieve this, and they deferred the work to the SA4 group that those of us on the call presented today are members of, and so we had a look at what to do, and this is what we ended up doing. Well, it's a slightly simplified version anyway. So you've still got this NWDAF consuming events and exposing analytics to a downstream network function. But what we did is we defined this thing called a data collection AF, and that acts as an event producer for the NWDAF, and it exposes events to the NWDAF. And then in order to populate that, we defined this thing called a direct data collection client, which sits in the UE and reports data to the data collection AF. So that's all great. However, we also realized in SA4 that there was more interesting things that we could do in addition to what SA2 had asked us to do. For example, we realized that we had these things called application servers, and we've seen an example of, well, several examples of that in the earlier talks today. And these all have their own application logs, which is essentially a different form of UE data that's collected by the application server. So we wanted to be able to allow them to report in as well as the UEs. And we also realized that there might be other interested consumers of these events, not least an application service provider. So we defined this thing called an event consumer AF to generalize the idea beyond just the network data analytics function. So in this case, an application service provider might want to do its own data analytics that are more related to some other reporting domain. So I'll probably skip over this, but you can certainly have a look at this afterwards. But there's a kind of a walkthrough of the processes that you need to do to make use of this service. First of all, provisioning it. Then some event consumers subscribing to an event that it's interested in, then the direct data collection client in the UE getting some configuration, working out what information it needs to collect and report, and then actually doing some reporting. And then the data collection AF has a load of data processing rules in the form of some data access profiles, and they can control, restrict who can access the information, and you can also specify preps that you want to summarize information, calculate a long-term average, and so on and so on. And then finally, the information is exposed as an event to the downstream subscribers. So that's basically the walkthrough there. Now, one of the reasons we wanted to do a good job of this was because we realized that our own 5G media streaming use case could take advantage of this. As I think some of the earlier presentations have explained, we already have some reporting that's done from the media session handler to the 5GMS application function. And the 5GMS application function can, for example, log when various different features are used. So, for example, when the dynamic policy is invoked by the media session handler, we can log that in the 5GMS AF, so that can be exposed as an event. Similarly, when the media player consumes media from the 5GMS application server, we've got the equivalent of a CDN log entry for each of those accesses, so that can be reported to the data collection AF. So what we've done is we've instantiated the data collection AF inside the 5GMS application function, and we've instantiated the direct data collection client inside the media session handler. And so we've effectively created the first instantiation of the data collection and reporting architecture, and then we can expose that information to the 5GMS application provider as well. So that's what that is basically saying. And this instantiation is in the main 5G media streaming at stage 3 spec 26.5.12. So we also envisage further instantiations of that generic architecture. So, for example, the 5G multicast broadcast services stuff I was just talking about could make use of a different instantiation. So in this case, the MBSF is acting as an application function, and so we could use that to collect UE data and expose it. And the MBSAS, this thing that does unicast repair, is just another kind of data collection client with its own application log. So that could be reporting to that data collection AF and the MBSF. So that's just a different instantiation. And similarly for Edge, the stuff that Imed was talking about half an hour ago, we might want to record additional events in the 5GMS AF to do with the client-driven edge computing that he was talking about. And you may be able to think of others when you describe your own use cases to us. So similarly, that's just a summary of the different specs. And most of this stuff is in a new stage 2 spec called 26.5.3.1. That, as well as the stage 3 spec in 26.5.3.2, is due to be published imminently. All of these release 17 specs that we've talked about today have been updated recently, and were approved at SA96 plenary meeting about a week ago, and they will be published imminently on the 3GPP website. We've just been checking over drafts for the past week, but they're due to appear very soon. And that's me done. Thank you very much.